Jimmy Butler, or is he going to be a 76er next year?
You know, you can't manage a roster with your heart and your emotions. And what I will say about Jimmy Butler is his entire career has been like this. Starts out really, really romantic, honeymoon phase. Guy's a great player, crowd loves him. And then as the years go, he starts, kind of getting disengaged, kind of doing his own little weird thing. So I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. Like, I go back to last playoffs, and that run was like the greatest individual run that I've ever witnessed. There's no question about it. And probably if he doesn't get hurt, well, I shouldn't say probably. Maybe if he doesn't get hurt, they might win it all. But then this year he comes back and he plays like half the games. And when he does play, he's not very engaged. And then he gets hurt in the freaking play-in game, and so this season's over. Now, I'll also say, like, you know, they've been in at minimum the Eastern Conference Finals for the last, besides this year, the last like 4 years, and one of them being in the bubble, which was like what right before the next season started. So
Yeah.
like, I want to give him a little benefit of the doubt, except for then I go look at LeBron James, who played in like 9 NBA finals in a row and hadn't been hurt still. So, I don't know, man. We'll see. My heart wants him to sign him and go get Donovan Mitchell or somebody.
Yeah.
But my gut says they're going to sign him and not get anybody else and have the same exact team again, and that's going to really suck.
Got to trust
Tyler,
the Don. You have to trust the
Tyler,
Don. He knows what
Tyler
he's doing.
Hero's got to go. He got to get out of
He's
South
out,
Beach. Yeah, first of all, he's coming in there wearing like pink sweatshirts and stuff on the sideline, not playing. He's only playing half the games too, and he's what 20-something years old. Those guys, dude, guys. I don't mean to be empathetic here, but them guys that are young that get hurt every year, you just gotta come. You just gotta come off of that. Like it's just guys that are like that. They just can't.
Well, you know what it is? It's their training, Sprouse. They don't have the Rusty Witts, the Jamie Blatnicks of the world.
No, they don't.
Making those guys just top tier, premier. But they're also basketball players. We know this.
Well,
those guys can't transition to a football
no,
field.
well, apparently Jeff 30 of them can play in the NFL, according to Austin. What a dumb comment that was,
So
honest
dumb.
to God. Those guys load manage half the NBA season, and they still can't play. You load manage in the NFL, you can play one game.
Yeah.
I mean, just insane, dude.
Especially by a guy that averaged like what 8 or 9 points over his entire career, if that.
Yeah,
I think it was less than that.
And then you know what they all go back to, which drives me nuts, which drives me off the wall. Ooh, LeBron was the #1 recruit. Yeah, dude, in high school, so was everybody else.
Like 40 years ago.
So yeah, dude, like I mean, it's like unbelievable what these guys think. And then they also they look at his size, but they're so long and like skinny compared to NFL guys. It's just like, man, like don't get me wrong, had LeBron in high school, like went to college and played football and like built a football body, he probably could have. I mean, you never know. He's athletic enough, But when they sit there and throw out guys like Russell Westbrook and freaking some of them are throwing out Draymond Green, which that guy tried to play football.
He did,
and he got that ass whipped. But
I think Allen Iverson might be. Have you seen his high school tape? Man, good.
Yeah, that would
real
have been
good.
Now there's those guys like the Jimmy Grahams, the Antonio Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, like that played basketball. But again, that's like 3 in the history of the sport, and they were obviously freak athletes.
Fun fact: Randy Moss and Jason Williams were on the same high school basketball team.
They were.
Yeah,
man, that'd have been fun to watch.
Yeah, it would have been pretty exciting. Anyway, boys, we better get this show on the road. Just so everybody knows, I got no air condition in the Sprouse household, and I'm just gonna fight through. I'm just gonna battle. I'm just gonna
persevere,
compete.
Sprouse.
What I'm not gonna do is load manage this episode. So we're gonna go through. We're gonna play the full thing, and we're gonna get this show on the road. So
don't expect anything less.
Jeff, you tell me when to go, my friend.
Good to go when you are.
Good evening, happy Wednesday, and welcome into the #1 Group of 5 football podcast in the universe. We are the Group of 5 guys. If you're new here, if you're a first-time listener, or you don't know who we are, our mission is to be the voice for the Group of 5 football programs, a voice that they don't have because of our mainstream sports media. We need your help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of 5 guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your best podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a 5-star rating and a review. Leave a comment. Most importantly, tell your family and friends all about us. On this episode, it's been a couple weeks since we've been live, but we're going to talk about schools now being able to pay players directly and what effect that's going to have with this whole NIL and all that stuff. We're going to talk about the EA Sports, the new NCAA video game, and the tiers that EA Sports has come up with to pay the schools. And I don't know about anybody else, but I am starting to have not a change of heart, but I will say an open mind about the Group of 5 separate playoff. We're going to talk about plenty more. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy, did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
Projected getting drafted between the first and third round. Like, that's incredible.
That's
the wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of 5.
Yeah, I really appreciate you do for the Group of 5 programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are on the forefront of this, and
so I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of 5 because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
Hey, before we go any further, a couple of partners that we've got. Number one is Prize Picks for these NBA playoffs, more than likely just for these NBA finals, which we've got to root for anybody but the Celtics. Go on there. A lot of player fantasy over-unders on points, rebounds, assists, all of that stuff. Go to Prize Picks. Use our code GOFG. They'll give you a $100 first-time deposit match. Also, SeatGeek. If you're going to any of these College World Series games, make sure you check SeatGeek first. Use our code. It's all one word, Group of 5 guys. I believe they'll give you, I think it's, what is it, $20 off, $30 off? It's a pretty solid discount. Purchasing tickets off SeatGeek. That's our code, Group of 5 guys, all one word. Gentlemen, it's been a couple weeks. What's happening, man? Yo, what have we been up to?
A lot of baseball. A lot of baseball with the boys. My 2 older boys are knee deep in it right now, but it's been a lot of fun coaching both of them, and then my oldest is on a little travel team as well. So we've been up to Kentucky once, been in Nashville, all around Middle Tennessee, playing some baseball. So really that, and just slanging some sandwiches out of the deli, my friends. Mm-hmm. That's what we've been up to.
Mm-hmm. Now with the baseball, is it like, are you guys in it like some of these people? Like, are you fighting with other parents and stuff yet?
No, we have, we got our lines in the games, minus 5.5, minus 7.5, take it or leave it. But no, we got a good team, and we really like all the parents, and we're all pretty realistic. Like 9U baseball guys. Nobody's going to the MLB right now. Like let's chill out, and it's been good though. It's been fun.
Yeah. Speaking of gambling, I probably told you all this before, but I don't know if I ever mentioned it on air. Ask my mom about that. They used to bet on our youth football games down there in old Broward County, the Northeast Rebels. Every time we would play, the certain programs, Pompano Tigers, if you're listening, Pompano Eagles, anybody out of Pompano, they were big gamblers. And then I believe it was the Washington Park Buccaneers who beat us in the Super Bowl at 8 years old, by the way. I'll never forget that game. We lost 6-0. They returned the opening kick, did not get the extra point. and nobody else scored. Tough break for us. Anyway, Tip, what have you been up to these last couple weeks?
And not a whole lot. Got done with my oldest, TJ. He got done with his baseball and soccer season recently. So, and no sports for him this summer. It looks like everything opens up in the fall again. But probably gonna do baseball in the fall, and then looking at maybe doing flag football as well. Because I think when he turns 5 this fall, you're able to play. There's like a flag football league that's local that he's really interested in. So looking at doing that. But yeah, just got done with with sports and stuff with him, and summer is in full swing.
What about you, Sprouse? You're looking a little tan these days.
Well, I'm red faced, but that's not because of the beach. That's because I got no AC. But yeah, we did just get back. Took I don't want to say our annual beach trip. We usually try to make 1 or 2 beach trips a year, but went down to Old Destin, full week, man. Saturday to Saturday down there. Nice condo right on the beach. But it's always good. The kids are getting real brave with the water. But I took my oldest Cam. He'll be 4 in August. Rented a kayak, took him out, and we got about capsized, and he didn't like it. So it kind of spooked him a little bit, I think. Like, he was having a good time. He was good. And then a wave just came and smacked him in the face. And then, like, you know how it is. Like, you got to go out a little bit to get away from the waves. But, I didn't want to go out too far because I didn't want to go where, like, I couldn't just hop out and, be at most, like, waist deep. So, but anyway, we got out there for, I don't know, probably 20 minutes. He enjoyed it. But, just a week at the beach, the pool, down there eating some seafood and stuff. So definitely had a good time. Super long trip, though.
A week's a long time anywhere, especially with the entire family.
Yeah, it gets a little tight. It's a tight squeeze. And then for me, like, I get to thinking about all the stuff I got to do. I got to handle back at the house. So, like, I meant to, like, we left on a Saturday morning, and my game plan was I was going to cut the grass Friday afternoon. That way, when we came back, I could still give it a couple more days to mow. But it rained Friday, so I couldn't mow. So then when we got back, I was like 2.5 weeks.
Shoo.
Boy, let me tell you, and it ain't Zoysia. So this stuff grows now. And I was out there with my little push mower, dude, like 98 degrees.
Man, I'm sure they were blowing you up on the HOA.
Buddy, listen, no, I got people that ain't cut it once yet.
Really?
Like, they hadn't done their first cut of the year. It looks ridiculous. It looks like they, this new fad of people that are doing like wildflowers, but it's weed. They're just letting their grass turn into weeds. So, like, they think that it's for nature. Like, well, butterflies and bees. It's like, dude, that's weeds. You're getting ticks. You're not getting butterflies and bees. You're getting ticks. But anyway, we got people that got that. Their yard looks like that. So if anybody ever has a nerve to say to me, I'm about to win, I might win the beautification award this year, dude. I got flowers. I got roses. I got daylilies. They're yellow. I mean, I'm telling you, I got some color in my yard.
There you go.
You gotta get that house ready for sale. You can move back to Middle Tennessee, my friend.
That's right.
I will say this. Hey, if anybody's looking, well, I don't want to tell everybody exactly where I live, but my next door neighbor's house is up for sale, and it's the highest in the neighborhood. So I'm hoping he gets that thing. So then when it does come time for me, I'll be in a good spot.
There you go.
But anyway. We've got a lot that has happened. So the biggest news, college football Group of 5 related, is that the schools are now allowed to pay the players directly. So a couple layers to this thing. The first thing that I want to address is the fact that all the headlines that I saw said, Power 5 commissioners got together on this. So what I'm concerned with is that it just seems like, I don't know if it's on our end, like the Group of 5 commissioners are just like allowing themselves to get walked all over, or, they just have no power at all. And they have no choice. So that's my concern. Number one, that decisions are being made without the input of half of the people involved. But then of course, it seems like to me, it's another opportunity for the haves to continue to get richer and the have-nots to keep struggling. So I don't know, Jeff, I know you're in the mix with the NIL stuff, booster club stuff. So give me your take on this.
Yeah, it's, there's still a lot of, questions that need to be answered, but it's been approved. The NCAA had a settlement to one of the biggest lawsuit I think that they've kind of had on the books about this. So athletes all the way back to 2016, if I got my numbers right, it's like $2.75 billion. So those athletes will get a pool of that. I have no idea how that's going to be distributed. And then moving forward, I believe for the next, and I think that's for over the next 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. And then, going forward, these universities can pay athletes directly. Now, what questions come to my mind is, how is that going to work with Title IX, number one? Because if history's anything, the guys at the top that get all the money, which is football and basketball, because those are your two biggest college sports, are they going to want to share that, the money that they drive in basically to subsidize, which they've already been doing from a university standpoint, is like floating these other programs that don't break even and don't make any revenue. Football and basketball pays for it. That's how it kind of works. But now it's like, is all the money that's going to drive Title IX is going to require them to pay, equal to the women's sports. So are they going to want to do that? I don't think they will. So, and I had a conversation the day after it kind of happened with a Group of 5 head coach. I reached out to him like, hey, do you got any info on this? And basically he was just kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts with it, but he could see a situation where basketball and football break away from the NCAA to basically solve that Title IX distribution issue. So they would be separate and they could basically do their own thing. Now, I would imagine that'd be the Power, 2 probably schools that can afford to do it. I don't know if the Big 12 and ACC will be able to do it. And then another concern he had was the fact that it seems like the Power 5 or Power 4 now commissioners, it seems like they're at least having conversations and working together. And his concern was the fact that each Group of 5 commissioner and board, like everyone's kind of doing their own thing. And it's always a power and numbers type of situation. Like, why are the Group of 5 conferences not getting together? Because strength in numbers, if everybody's moving in the same direction, you're going to have, I think, ultimately more power. Whereas like all these conferences are trying to posture themselves so they get hopefully brought in if something crazy happens, where they could be smarter if they start communicating. Like you kind of alluded to it, Sprouse, like communicate and figure out how to work together on this. It might have some more bargaining power. And then the last thing is, you start doing this, athletes are employees now. So you're going to open up that whole can of worms where that money is going to be taxed. How does that affect the scholarships? Because schools only have so much money, right? So they're given all these scholarships. Where are they going to limit their scholarships now because they're paying athletes more? So there's that whole factor. There's the taxation factor of it because it's income now. You have, just like a job, you show up late so many times, they can fire you, where it's a little more difficult at this point. So there's just so many things that's going on. And then I just read a minute ago, NCAA is proposing to allow the universities to sell sponsorships on the field where they have not been able to do before, to try and generate some more revenue. So there's just so many moving parts with it right now. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I think it hurts the Group of 5 schools ultimately, because you got these smaller schools that probably don't have the budget to do it. I think the Tulanes and Boise States and some of those schools will be okay, but we'll see what happens.
Well, what I worry about with what you just said is, from our selfish perspective here as the Group of 5 guys, is like, I don't want the Boise State. I don't want Boise State in the Big 12. I don't want Tulane in the ACC because I want those brands in the Group of 5. It's the same thing with the Cincinnati, UCF, and they moved on and whatever, it's fine. But, well, did you? I don't know if you have the clip, Jeff. Old Jeff Murphy here got contacted by the Nashville News as a
Channel 5
local leading expert on this subject. So you got, but what was interesting to me as we were talking about that, Jeff, is that like, you have people that are sports media, sports reporters, fans, and nobody knows anything really. And then, you have this lawsuit with this Jaden Rashada kid. I think isn't it something to do with that? The NCAA, what you told me is they're buying time essentially to deal with all these lawsuits that they're trying to deal with.
That's kind of what I mean, that's me reading into it, right? I mean, I probably know honestly about as much as everyone else does. I'm just trying to read a bunch of articles and figure out like why now, why this. But yeah, I mean, they have so many lawsuits pending against them. This was a big one that I think they needed to get done. So they settled. They came to a number that they can, pay back pay these athletes, and then moving forward, this should eliminate future lawsuits that in the same realm of what the original lawsuit was about. So yeah, I think this buys them some time to figure out moving forward what the plan is going to be, and this is the plan going forward for now. There's going to be more more lawsuits, I'm sure, that come up. I mean, like you said, the Rashada kid, which is mind blowing to me, honestly. Like,
This is the age of NIL. Mention that dollar amount to that kid. So for those of you that don't know, so this Jaden Rashada, he just signed now with Georgia, which is his fourth school in the last year and a half. So he commits to Miami out of high school, essentially because I can't remember the guy's name. Some business guy down there offers him like $9 million, and then he commits, and then he flips on signing day and signs at Florida because they offer him $13 million. And then I don't think that he ever enrolled in Florida. I think it was like he was waiting for the money, and they were like, you got to be here, dog. And neither one would budge. So then he goes to Arizona State, and now he's transferring to Georgia. But he is suing not only the NIL guy, whoever it was, but also Billy Napier, the head coach of Florida, for this. And I mean, look, we've been, Jeff, especially you, has been screaming this since the NIL became a thing about you're getting promised stuff that you're not getting, and that's what we've been talking about for a long time since this thing. So this is a perfect example of that, number one. And the other example is for the kid. And again, we say this all the time, whoever's in his corner, like, bro, like, just, it's so much money. Like, why are you, like, the greed of a 18-year-old kid, so more than likely the greed of his mom or dad or whoever his guardian has got these NIL collectives in a bidding war for the kid. And it's like, look, dude, if you're on your fourth school now in a year and a half, at some point, like, if you can't find a home, like, that's on you. And it goes back to this, like, you look at guys, right, in the NFL. You look at guys like Tim Tebow. You look at guys like Colin Kaepernick, right? Whatever you want to think of these guys, like, the main reason that they did not last on NFL rosters was because they were a distraction. For whatever reason it was, they were not good enough to outweigh the distraction. It's not to say that they weren't good enough. It's that GMs, owners, coaches did not want to deal with the headache of having all of the circus around their team. So now you got a guy who's 19 years old and already has this circus around him. I mean, I don't remember him doing much at Arizona State. No. I know he's got at Georgia, he's got a chance if and when he does play, if he even stays there. Probably not, because they got a guy. But it's like he hasn't even performed yet. And there's already these things, these extras, this baggage. And like what we say, like, okay, yeah, $9 million is a lot of money. $13 million is a lot of money. Still not what you could make as a number one pick in the NFL draft at quarterback. I mean,
yeah, and I also don't understand, like, that's such bad business sense by the collectives, but I guess they just have so much money to throw around. Like, you're throwing those numbers at a kid who's absolutely unproven, especially, at that level on that stage. Like, why is he warranting that much money?
Right.
And we've got the chance, and shout out to the inside drills we've done over the last, 2 months. We've interviewed a lot of Group of 5 head coaches, and almost all of them, which I love, has the, similar mindset. If we talk to you, you're in the portal, and your first question is, what are you getting me in NIL? A lot of them are like, never mind. I don't think you're the right fit for us, because we have NIL and we're going to take care of you. But if that's all you care about, that shows a distinct factor about your character. Mm-hmm. And that transcends on the field and off. And I think that's the way to go. That's the way you have to recruit. Make sure he's the right fit. If all he cares about is NIL, he's probably not going to stay at your program for long. He's probably not going to do much on the field either. Like the kids who get it, that want the playing time, want the opportunity, because any coach that tells you you got a starting job is probably lying to you, or they're really, really bad. So all they can promise you is an opportunity to compete. And those are the coaches I think you want to try and find and play for.
Well, and I just want to add one more thing on this topic. Now that you say it, and I'm thinking about it, and you mentioned the if they break away from the NCAA and these guys become quote unquote employees, okay, and then you're going to be dealing with contract type stuff. You're going to be dealing with agents. Are you going to be dealing with holdouts, contract disputes? Are they even going to go? Like, are they even going to have to be a student? If they are a student, do you pay them and say, all right, well, you're an employee now, so pay your tuition? Like, is that the route you go? Which I think would be quite hilarious, honestly, because every time somebody asks me my opinion on, should players make money? And obviously I would have never been an NIL guy. I would have gotten whatever the minimum is. That's what I would have gotten. But it's like, but I also don't have student loans and never did. So like you ask anybody that's, I don't know, 40 and below, they're probably still paying off student loans. And so, it's one of those deals where it's like, man, to me, you're set up for success by not having that on your plate, number one. So I don't know, but that's what worries me. Tip, I saw you nodding your head about that with agents and holdouts and stuff. What do you got?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely going to happen. And you have the opportunity, these kids have the opportunity just to leave one school and immediately be eligible at another school. You're going to run into situations where they're going to hold out. And there's so many schools out there, you're going to have at least one that will say, hey, I see that you're holding out. We'll pay you right now if you just come here right now, and we'll pay you. Whether if you play it down or not, we'll go ahead and just play it just so we have the opportunity to get your talent on the field. So if we go that route, it's absolutely going to happen.
Are you going to have – here's another wrinkle. Are you going to have middle of the season? Somebody goes elsewhere. Are you going to have somebody – are you going to have this – right? The NCAA, if they're not involved, are you going to have this situation where, I don't want to throw bad vibes on anybody, but let's say you have a quarterback one goes down at Georgia or a national contender, and they're not too sure about their backup, but a Michael Pratt is sitting over there at Tulane having a great season, or a Caden Salter's having a great season at Liberty. And does he get a phone call because now there's no real governing body that says, hey, buddy, we got this much money? And then on the other hand, now do you have an agent that's probably somebody that's trying to take advantage of a kid versus an NFL agent who's trying to make money for everybody, really? I mean, I get it. Some agents are scumbags, but like, do you have somebody that's taking advantage of a 19-year-old kid that's taking a hell of a high percentage of whatever the NIL deal they get, promising them they're going to get them the biggest NIL deal, making these phone calls behind the scenes to other schools, to other coaches, seeing their value? I mean, man, planting stories in the media about players. You talk about distractions for 18, 19. Normally your distraction is like you got a new girlfriend or something like that. Now you're going to be talking about a distraction of a several $1 million contract, and you're 19 and you've never made $1 in your life before.
Well, it's crazy too. Like, they're going to be able to make the money from the university, whatever that dollar amount, whatever their value is. They can still get NIL. So some of these kids could potentially be making like ridiculous amounts of money, more than what they're going to be making in the NFL, especially on rookie deals. So it's like, now does a kid stay? Does he stay all 4 years because he can make more money, in college? And then, like, even if they do break away, the SEC and Big Ten or some form of that, there has to be some type of governing body that's putting, regulations in place. Now, who knows what that body's going to be, but like, you're getting into contracts. So you're going to have a players association. Who's going to do that? I mean, that's another lobbying body that you're going to have to deal with. And of course, they're going to look out for the players' best interests, but like, we know how that goes. So, and then like, if they're two separate entities, how does the transfer rules go from an NCAA school, if they remain and some of the group of 5 schools and conferences stay in the NCAA, how do you take, transfers from a different, it's a mess, man. I'm telling you, it's a mess. And
they can't go back now, because you can't go back and do what might be the right thing. In my opinion, what would be the right thing and is, hey, you get a scholarship, you can earn some money through appearance or through some type of additional work.
The
or
true
service.
NIL, what it was supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. Do you remember when it first came out and we had Coach Lunsford on when he was at Georgia Southern, and we were like, yeah, Gavin Adcock's making a couple bucks singing songs. That was like what we thought. That was what we thought it was going to be. And boy, in 2 years, it has just completely gone upside down.
Shout out to Gavin Adcock, by the way. I was listening to Pandora Radio. Yeah. Oh, boy, comes on the radio the other day. I said, good for you, man.
I'm surprised he didn't open up for Cole Swindell at Georgia Southern. That may be a soft spot still.
Yeah, I think
for the people of Statesboro.
I think there's still something there.
Yeah, but, I mean, it probably should be. I mean, that was pretty bad. But anyway, yeah, dude, he's making it. Anyway, we got to get off. We got to get off of this because honestly, we don't have the answers, and nobody does yet. I don't think anybody probably ever will. They'll keep changing it. They'll keep moving the goalpost to try to fix it, and it's going to keep probably making it worse.
The best thing the group of 5 can do, and I don't know if they'll ever do it, is the conference commissioners got to start working in some type of like tandem in the same direction, because what they're doing right now to me just seems like you're putting yourself out on an island and you don't have much bargaining power when everybody's separate.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, hey, Jeff, you brought it up and I forgot to talk about it earlier. We have been interviewing a lot of folks, at the start of 2024. So go back, check the YouTube channel or Apple Podcast, Spotify. We've got them all on there. Make sure you check those out. I mean, we just had Jared Parker at Troy. We just had John Summerall at Tulane. We had Scotty Walden at UTEP. We had Barry Odom at UNLV. We did Derek Mason at Middle Tennessee to start the year.
Brian Blair,
Major Toledo AD, Major Applewhite down at South Alabama. I feel like I'm missing one or two for sure. Well, then we went down to Georgia Southern. We had every coach on their staff on, pretty much.
There's a ton of good content on there, man. Go check it out.
I feel like I'm missing somebody.
Just look, anything that's titled Inside Drill.
Inside Drill, check them out. It's an interview with a coach or AD. We're gonna have we got some more stuff coming up, so we'll keep you posted on those. We're potentially now having our resident group of 5 first-round draft pick coming up soon, but we'll get that figured out once we get details on that.
And you guys out there on the X platform, start tagging some of these coaches or players or AD. Yeah. If you want to see us interview somebody, tag us and tag them, and we'll try and reach out, and hopefully they'd be willing to come on.
Hey, by the way, dude, shameless plug here. Amigos in Rosemary Beach, a little Mexican joint, phenomenal. Yeah? Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, big time. A little high, a little overpriced, but really,
You're
really
down
good
to Florida,
food.
everything's, especially in Destin.
Well, when you have the only state with freedom left, you got to pay for it. Anyway, hey,
freedom's not free.
No, it's not. So anyway, we got to talk about the NCAA video game, which, by the way, gentlemen, I have not played a video game since the last video game that I owned was on PS2. I believe it was the Madden with Marshall Faulk on the cover. I believe 2003, maybe 2000, or maybe it's
right. 02 or 03,
maybe later than that. I don't know. But anyway, that's the last game system that I owned and the last video game that I played.
2003. Very, very well done.
Nice.
Pretty good. I knew Marshall Faulk was on the cover because I feel bad about it now, but I was a kid. But I was playing with the Rams a lot because they were Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Kurt Warren. I mean, unbelievable.
Weren't playing with the Finns, huh?
No, I wasn't looking to wheel Jay Fiedler out there in the Miami Dolphins circa 2002. I wasn't. Now the Dolphins would be a pretty good video game team to play with. But anyway, the new NCAA game is coming out. I don't know when. I mean, surely any day now, right? It looks to be everything that I've read and clips that I've seen. It looks to be, one of the most detailed games that they've ever done. Now, how much detail was put into all the schools, that we will, have to see when it comes out. But I'm thinking about getting it, man. I don't know what what is it? PlayStation 5? Is that the
I
system
think
now?
so, yeah.
They're like $1,000, are they not?
No, I don't
I
think
don't
they're
know.
quite that much. I think there's different levels. But
Well, maybe, yeah. We need some kind of sponsorship deal from that. But anyway, I'm thinking about buying it, and I think we could maybe put together some type of a, like everybody gets a team and we
Yeah.
run through a season or something. Maybe I think that would be a fun little deal, like a tournament, but you actually play the games on the schedule. You know what I mean? But anyway, so here's what they've got. So now they've put these tiers out of how they are financially supporting the schools, and it's based on their AP finish over the last 10 years. Is that accurate?
That's right. Yeah. So the tier system that they're using it's their AP poll finish at the end of the season from the last 10 years. And so there's 4 total tiers. And just real quick, the dollar amount per team. If you're in the first tier, each they're paying each school just under $100,000. The second tier, just under $60,000 per school. Third tier, just under $40,000. Fourth tier, just under $10,000. But that pay structure and the amount of money per school is not really what intrigued us when we saw this. What intrigued us was some of these schools in some of these tiers. Now, I will start off by saying, like, 10 years isn't a huge sample size, but I feel like with the current landscape of college football, 10 years is a pretty solid sample size of how well each of these schools have been doing, at least from the AP poll perspective.
Well, and it the first thing that went in my mind was, we talked about these tiers sort of a couple weeks back when we were talking about the teams, that are actually competing for national championships. Now, this tier 1 that they have looks awfully similar to what we talked about as like tier 1 and tier 1B sort of.
Yeah.
Now there's something like
minus,
Iowa.
yeah.
Iowa, Oklahoma State, I'm not entirely sure how they got in there. I mean, Oklahoma State, I guess, has been like a top 15 team every year. Like, they've never been terrible. And I guess Iowa's that way too. But then the tier 2 for me was very interesting. Because you had your Cincinnati in there, you had Louisiana in there, you had Liberty in there, Utah State. So some of these teams,
South Florida Bulls.
Yeah, now that was interesting to me too, because other than last year, I mean, they've been bad for 4 or 5 years, have they not?
For the last decade, it's been rough sledding.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but anyway,
Fresno State's in there; they deserve that.
Yep. I mean, but what's funny is, right, like, you look at some of them on there and you think like, oh, Liberty, they've just recently been good. It's like, well, they've been holding it down for quite a while now, a few years. And then Louisiana, you look at who's like in shambles right now. It's only 2-3 years removed from absolutely dominating the Sun Belt. Now I'm not sure how, like,
I found the third tier the most
Yeah.
interesting, because you have in the third tier you have 26 total teams on there. 54% of those teams are Power 5 schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
42% are Group of 5 schools. And I'm just going to name off some of these Group of 5 teams that are in the third tier. In that third tier, you have Tulane, App State, Coastal Carolina, Air Force, Troy, Marshall, Western Kentucky, and there's a few others in there. But those that I just named, those teams, any season from here on out have a legit shot of making the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me name some of these
Yeah.
Power 5 schools that are in the third and fourth tier. In the third tier, Power 5 schools, you have Syracuse, Kansas, South Carolina, Arkansas, Colorado, Minnesota, Iowa State, Georgia Tech, Oregon State. In the fourth tier, Texas Tech, Vanderbilt, Maryland, Duke, Purdue, Cal, Rutgers, Boston College, Virginia, Illinois, and Nebraska, who used to be a college football powerhouse in the 90s and early 2000s, is in the 4th tier in this structure, this payout structure, and based on their AP poll finishes in the last 10 seasons. So if you're telling me that those Power 5 teams that I just mentioned, they're in this 3rd and 4th tier, you're telling me that they have the same opportunity as all the other Power 5 schools and all the schools in general to win a national championship, then every single Group of 5 team deserves that chance as well.
Bingo. Spot on.
Bingo bongo.
Absolutely spot on. You know what? And here's – you go this too, though, Tip. On Tier 2, like when you look at Fresno State, Liberty, South Florida, San Diego State. I mean, then you look at like Mississippi State, Pitt.
The Group
Those
of 5
two-
schools,
those
the
two.
2nd and 3rd tier, like I said earlier,
Kentucky?
Well, this is what we have been screaming from the mountaintops for 3-4 years now. There's 4 or 5 teams, and there's everyone else. That's what it is. Now, I'm not going to call them by name, but there's some teams in Tier 4 that they're on the bottom half of everybody else. Like there's maybe 5 at the top, 5 at the bottom, and then everybody else. And those schools need to figure it out real quick, or they really are going to not have football in the next couple of years. But you're exactly right. I mean, you're exactly right. And those Group of 5 teams have a better chance to win their conference than any. I mean, it is unbelievable that we get these people that think any of those teams in Tier 4 and Tier 3 and honestly Tier 2 even have a shot to beat any of those teams in at least the top half of Tier 1.
I think there are some teams in that 2nd tier that's like maybe they have
They're good now.
Yes,
Yeah,
like they have
exactly.
a year or two. Like Washington's in the 2nd tier. Last year was their chance.
Yep.
Now I know they've had a lot of turnover and stuff with players leaving and coaches leaving, but like I don't think we see Washington make the playoff in the next 5+ years. That's just my opinion. Another interesting stat that I pulled from this list: out of the total Power 5 teams that are on this list or in these tiers, 35% of all the Power 5 teams are in either the 3rd or the 4th tier.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go ahead and just say, like you just mentioned, Sprouse, I would say a majority of those Power 5 teams in the 2nd tier aren't going to win a national championship. That's like, I'm just going to name a few that I see: Arizona, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Northwestern, just to name a few that I like.
Kentucky, Missouri,
Washington, Wisconsin. Those teams are not going to win a national championship. So I would argue to say that at least half, maybe even more, of the Power 5 teams realistically don't have a chance to win the national championship. So if people want to talk about just a Group of 5 bracket, like whatever for just the Group of 5 schools, they need to start talking about a P5A and a P5B or something. We need to start categorizing these more accurately, because realistically, less than half of the quote unquote Power 5 schools even have a realistic shot of winning a national championship.
Has it taken a video game to figure out the proper, like how it actually is? Isn't that kind of funny though?
Simple, something so simple. 10 years of data of 1 week of
Like,
AP poll finishes.
Like, and I just imagine now, I'm going to stereotype now. I imagine some computer nerd, right, that's making this video game that's like, we got to figure this out, how to pay these teams. And they're like, well, let's just take a spreadsheet of some numbers here and look at who wins and who doesn't win. I mean, and they've got a pretty good tier system here. I mean, it's pretty, like, you could argue on a few, moving them up or down a tier, but
not many.
But also here's the thing: like, they took a number, they took a black and white. Here's where they finished. This is where they're based off of. Now that number, of course, could be skewed, and it's probably skewed for the negative at the group of 5 level, because you have, if it's the AP poll, you got freaking sports writers that, I mean, look, nobody can watch all the games. So they're the ones making the poll. So that's where there could be some variance. But, I mean, it's like it really takes a video game that hadn't been out in 10 years to get some type of a tier system that might be the way to go.
But it's just funny to me. It's the sports media that drives this, but it's like you get a team like Nebraska, they somehow turn it around and make the college football playoff and start making some noise. Then the national media won't even bat an eye. They're the blue blood school, blah, blah, blah.
They're back.
In here, they're back, blah, blah, blah.
That's
but
it.
They won't mention they've been one of the worst college football teams in the last decade.
Yeah.
But then if you have a group of 5 school that's undefeated,
they got to do it 3 years in a row.
Has an opportunity in the college football playoff. They don't even have a shot. They've never been here before. Excuses, whatever it may be.
What's mind-blowing to me about the entire thing is every other sport, every other level of football has it figured out. But for some reason, there's one level of football that's just like, I don't get how we can't figure this out. Like, look at every other sport. Look at every other sport. Like, it's really not rocket science, man. It really isn't. Put the teams in the tournament that deserve to be in there. You're always going to have some question marks because there's always a line. Do these teams deserve to get in? Did they make the cut or not? Put them in and just see what happens. Like, see what happens. You're going to have great TV ratings. You're going to have great football games.
Like,
and those 4 teams are going to do what they do.
Like FAU making it to the final 4. Like, that was entertaining. People wanted to watch that quote unquote Cinderella team make that run in the tournament. Like, it adds that entertainment factor.
Yep.
Watching a Tulane or a Boise State or an App State making a run, winning that first game. Oh, are they going to win the second game? Let's watch and see. I just think if you get these same teams that are in the college football playoff year after year, it's going to get repetitive. It's going to get boring. And for me personally, I'm not going to be as interested to watch that. I like to see new teams in there. Like, I'm going to be honest, translate this to NBA basketball. I don't watch a whole lot of NBA basketball, but I've been tuning into some of the games this year because it's different players, it's different teams, and I just like to see new teams, new players in there. It's just, for me personally, it's just more entertaining.
I'm right there with you on that. I mean, I've gotten probably less interested, other than the Cincinnati game. I've probably gotten less interested in the college football playoff every year, honestly, because it's kind of I don't know. I don't want to say it's like predictable, but kind of, and even you look at what TCU did, right? I mean, everybody thought TCU had absolutely no shot, and then they didn't have a shot when they played Georgia. So it's like, but they did win a game and they beat a blue blood. So you can't tell me if a Boise, a Tulane, an App, a Memphis, a South Florida, whoever plays somebody like that, and it's not one of the freaking juggernauts, which I already know. I'm already going to hedge this bet because we already know how they're going to set this up. They're going to make a 12-5, and it's going to be 12 group of 5 going on the road to whatever team finished second in the SEC, which is going to be Georgia or Alabama. We already know that's what they're going to do, or Michigan, Ohio State. It's going to be that. So let's start preparing for that narrative to happen. But let them go play in Oklahoma State or whatever. But I don't know. It's pretty comical to me, the whole thing.
Well, before we move on to this leads right into our next segment to finish the show. What will it take? Like, did they already make the point that the group of 5 champion, no matter what, gets the 12 seed, or does that let's just say we have an undefeated group of 5 conference champion, can they get a 10 or a 9 seed?
Sure, they could potentially get a 4.
Okay,
potentially. Now, so your top 4 seeds are going to be your 4 highest ranked conference champions. Now, the only way a group of 5 team is going to get that is if it's an undefeated, whoever, any conference.
Yeah, but
champion.
they have to be ranked though by the coaches
but if they're undefeated, okay, hear me out. If they're undefeated and they're ranked, they'll probably be like 18, 16, something like that, and you have an upset in one of the other championship games where you have a 4-loss Wisconsin beats Michigan somehow or whatever, that's where then Wisconsin, that's where the
Wisconsin
debate will
that.
be, does Wisconsin jump Tulane or whoever it is? But
Mm.
but that's when you're going to have that 5 seed is going to be, a juggernaut. And then if you're sitting at the 12, but now that there's only 4 power conferences, I mean, honestly, it's a,
Well, Notre Dame's in every year, right?
well, that's who's going to be your 4 seed. It probably is that. I haven't
That's
looked
fine.
No,
Let them be.
They
the
can't
4
be.
seed.
They can't be. Yeah,
Let them be
yeah,
the 5 seed.
Yeah, they'll be the 5. That's you're exactly
Let 'em.
right. You might as well chalk them in
The
at 5
auto
right
bid.
now.
Yeah.
Notre Dame auto bid. All 10 conference champions and Notre Dame gets it. Just forget about UConn and Army and whatever. But so that goes into the next point. So I'll be honest, guys. I'm sort of having an open mind about this separate playoff. And now I know Ohio's coach Tim Albin. I haven't seen it, but people were tweeting at us that he was advocating for a Group of 5 playoff. Coach Mack at FIU, he didn't necessarily advocate for it, but he was definitely open to it. Here's why I'm having a. I'll give you my 2. I'll give you the angel and the devil on the shoulder here. So the I don't know which one's which, but one side is saying I don't want to concede that we're not at the same level. The other side of me, and that's me saying, no, put us in the playoff, give us a shot. We don't want a separate playoff. We're not less than, which I believe that. However, with all of this realignment, with the way that they keep changing stuff, with the advantages that they keep putting in place to help the rich get richer, I think I would almost be for, you know what, let them do it and let the bottom half or the bottom 85% just eat themselves and destroy themselves, and let us go do our own thing, have a playoff, have a champion, a real playoff, a real champion, and have entertaining football versus just fighting a non-winnable battle. So I don't know. I don't know where you guys are on it. I mean, I still think, and I trust me when I say, man, I hope somebody like freaking Memphis or Tulane or Boise has one of those teams this year that's an all-time great, because I promise they're going to beat somebody. But if we don't, and no disrespect to Liberty, but if we get a team that's like Liberty that maybe is not as good as some teams have been in the past, or they get put up against a team that's 3 points away from being in the playoff last year, you might not be pretty. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been pretty consistent. Like, I see both sides. I really do. And with the NCAA settlement now and these universities that are going to be able to pay their players, I think it's really going to draw people away from that. And I think that if they do end up doing their own thing, like Tip said, you're going to get tired of seeing the same 4 or 5 teams, because those teams are just going to continue to stack, and you're not going to have true competition. You're going to get, the same 2 to 5 teams every single year finishing it out, where if they break away, then that forces the hand to have everybody else that didn't make that cut to have a tournament, to have a playoff. And then I think that, that can be very beneficial for everybody involved, from a marketing standpoint, for the universities, for, just true competition, because that's what we want. In any given moment, anybody can beat anybody, other than a couple teams. And that's just because of the physicality of college football. That's the difference between football and basketball and baseball. So
now when we look back at like those EA Sports tiers, that's my thing, is those tier 3, tier 4, most of the tier 2 teams, I'm just confused. Do they not see that they're going to just get walked on by all the tier 1 teams? That's what I'm confused about. like right now, Texas Tech, who was in what, tier 4, right?
Right.
Like, is their athletic director sitting there right now thinking like, oh man, we're gonna win this thing, or are they just thinking like, are they looking at this and thinking, look at all this money we're about to make off of the rest of the teams in our conference?
That's what it is.
That what
They're looking at the payout structure of this. Like, man, I'm gonna get cashed out, and the less teams that are on this level, the more money I get.
Is South Carolina right now thinking like, oh man, I could never beat Georgia and Alabama. Now I'll never beat Georgia, Alabama, or Texas. It's like, I just, and their fans, to me, like these fans are delusional. So you got fans that want to fire your coach after going 9-3. Well, now you about to go 6-6, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna be firing everybody.
Well,
now, anyway.
Not that, and I know we're running close on time here, but Sprouse had a question in the chat.
Oh, no.
And without saying the name of this person, would you take a 12-0 Sun Belt team to get that higher seed? Cough, cough. Texas State.
Take it over who?
Like what we were talking about, getting that high, not automatically getting.
Of course,
the 12
I would.
Seed. Is it realistic?
Is it realistic that they go 12-0? Is more?
Well, that's gonna be tough. But if they did, I see that's where they would get snubbed because they've never been. It's like a one-hit wonder so far because they're so new.
Yeah, but snubbed by what? Now where they would get snubbed?
If Texas State won the Sun Belt and went 12-0, they would be locked in at the 12 seed and they would play a juggernaut 5. I think. I don't think the committee would put them higher than 12.
No, you're probably right. Where I'm concerned, see, now this is where my biggest concern is, and this is what I think is more likely, is a team like Texas State goes 12-0, and a team like Tulane goes 11-1, and then that's the debate, and they stick whichever one in the 12. That's what's really going to happen.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if any team goes 12-0 in the Sun Belt,
put them into 1. Did y'all see the win totals? Liberty's win total is like 10.5. Dude, it's like the most in history. But I think tough.
We'll do a whole show. We'll do
because they have
our next show
got
on
a
those
tough
over
stretch.
Totals.
Liberty's got a tough stretch. So yeah, I think we should do that next show. That'd be a good idea. Hit all the win totals. I don't know if they've all come out yet, but that's a good. Was that creme brulee? Is that
no? It wasn't. Texas State of Mind. Put that on there. Christopher G was in the chat. Appreciate you guys in there. Scott B, Matt Hardigan, a couple guys were in there. A couple new names we hadn't seen on a regular basis. Appreciate you guys doing the live chat.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. That's the big concern. I mean, because it's quite realistic. I don't know if it's quite realistic that Texas State or somebody in the Sun Belt goes 12-0. Sun Belt, unfortunately, is going to have a tough time. But I do think it's very realistic that you have a 12-1 conference champion, Miami, Ohio. You have a 12-1, 11-2 conference champion, Memphis, Tulane. And you have a 12-1 conference champion, Boise State. I mean, I think that's
and Liberty
and an undefeated Liberty. And you tell me which one you're putting in, and you got one. Now, I think that's where I think you should.
Sprouse, did you just give away all your conference winners in one take?
Oh no, buddy, those are the obvious picks. You don't know who I got. You think I'm going to go a show without picking the South Florida Bulls or the FAU Owls to win the conference? Jeff, come on.
There's some dark horses out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, but that's what I think you're going to get. And then unfortunately for the Sun Belt, you're going to have like an 8-4 champion. Yeah. And they're all going to get snubbed. And then the worst part is the consolation prize is freaking New Orleans Bowl, which is a great bowl, but it's not the Orange Bowl. It's not the Rose Bowl. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not a playoff game at home. Which, by the way, I do want to make this clear before this is our last thing. I'm sorry, you guys. We'll go. I want to make a personal promise that if there is a group of 5 home playoff game, we're there 110%, no matter what, no matter where, whether that's freaking FIU or Fresno State or Buffalo. Well, Hawaii might be tough. but No offense to Hawaii, but yeah, I don't know. That ain't happening. Timmy Chang, maybe if he comes out of retirement and puts the helmet on, they might have a chance.
He can still spin it, I guarantee you.
Yeah. Well, hey man, hope you guys like the show. For those new guys, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for listening. For everybody else, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give us a 5-star rating. Leave a review. Tell your family and friends all about us. We got to get this Group of 5 army. We got to get louder on the socials. That's how you get real movement happen. You gotta be a little bit of a protester, an extremist, if you will. You gotta, we can't sit here as the silent majority. We gotta make some noise here, and we'll get some movement.
Go on social media, show this EA Sports tier, and poke fun at all your friends that are Nebraska or Texas Tech or Cal or Rutgers fans. Go share this with them.
Write your senators, write your governors, call up there, tell them you want real change. You want to tell you what, you want these governors to quit fighting for the University of Virginia and start fighting for Liberty and Old Dominion and those guys. So anyway, follow us on all the social platforms at Group of 5 Guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, subscribe, tell your family and friends about us, leave a 5-star rating and a review. Check out all of those Inside Drill episodes. They are on there. Let us know what you think. That's all we got. We'll see you guys next week with another episode of Inside Drill. Out of here.